Can you just use earphone? It has microphone. You can talk in here. Oh wait, it's not it.
Good morning all, give me 1 second, just working through some technical difficulties. Alright, good morning folks. Sorry for the little mix-up. Starting a new time, streaming Fridays, 10 a.m. to noonish, or at least every other week. Just trying it out, different timing. Let's just double check you guys can hear everything. Let's see. I'm gonna check the restream chat and double check that you guys can hear me on the Twitch.
With the inflate brush and start to get the surrounding area of that built up.
Let's see here.
Path, are we clear?
This is my favorite part.
I've got the Twitch ad playing now. Let's let that subside. I don't know why this keeps disappearing. Let's leave it like there. So this is the project we're going to be reviewing a bit today and moving on to some other fun stuff. Just as soon as I can check everything's working. So give me a couple more secs. There we go. And moving on to some other fun stuff. Perfect. Okay, so I can hear myself. Twitch is good. Also streaming live on YouTube and Facebook. So I'm just going to jump right in because I think you guys can hear me. The audio is good and everything looks good. So let me quickly open up the Facebook stream. Make sure that's working too. YouTube stream. All right, cool. Cynthia Cole can hear me. Perfect. Thank you for the message, Cynthia. Okay, so let's get started. My name is Aiman. I'm a 3D artist in Los Angeles. I'll do my quick intro as usual. If you want to learn more about me, you can go to aiman3d.com. And I've been working on a lot of 3D print projects for the past 4 years or so here. So you can see there's some big projects, there's some small stuff, costume stuff, and the 3D print sculpture section of my website, you can go through and see a lot of my stuff. Recently, I launched my own toy line called Fungisaurs with my wife, Fa. These are little dinosaur mushroom hybrids that we're launching as a mystery box set. If you want to learn more about those, it's on fungisaurs.com. We've got the online store open now. And we're working on an augmented reality game to bring the toys to life in augmented reality in your phone. So some exciting stuff there. So this is kind of a lot of what I do on my stream. I talk about myself a little bit. I talk about projects of mine like Fungisaurs, and then I show you guys how I do them. So you may be noticing that guy right there, the big one. Let me pull up the stream window a little bit and then show you what's the latest on my Fungisaurs project. All right. So this might be a bit difficult because I've got this mic attached to me, but I should be able to show you some stuff. So this is the size of my mystery box toys, the Fungisaurs. They're about palm size, and they come in like a little mystery box, about yay big. You don't know which one you're going to get, and that's what encourages the collectability. These were all sculpted in ZBrush, and printed and prototyped on my Form 2 you see right here. Technically, actually, the Form 1, maybe. No, I think it was the Form 2. Once they were done prototyping, then I had them injection molded and mass produced. So we've got 15,000 of these and the whole series of little guys. And now it's time to market and promote them and build the brand. So we got this one. This is a Mega Paradox. So basically, my Fungisaurs toy line and brand that I'm building, it's about these little guys, but that's how small they are when they're born. As they get older, they kind of get bigger and bigger and bigger till they're dino size. So this isn't even their final form. They get even bigger than this. But this one was made for me by James at Monster City. So I'll share a link to their site and info shortly. But Monster City Studios, and this was not 3D printed. So this was using the same digital file used to print this guy. But it wasn't a 3D print because 3D print is additive manufacturing, meaning it's layer by layer by layer by layer by layer, and slowly you build up the thing. There's a few different types of 3D printing. There's the Form 2 that uses liquid resin, and then there's the Raise 3D N2 Plus I've got to my left. I can show you that as well. And that uses FDM filament, so PLA or ABS, fused deposition modeling. This thing was milled by an 8-axis robot. So a robot arm milled this out of like a hard foam. So this is foam. You can see it's somewhat light. It's a bit heavier than it looks actually. But this thing was milled out of foam, and then these guys did a little bit of patching and sanding and spraying, and then they painted all of this. So you can see the quality is excellent. And I'm loving this because this is going to be a really big catch at different expos that I exhibit my Fungisaurs and stuff. It'll be a good draw to the table because people will see this and come running. It's like, what is that? So yeah, this little guy is a Parasaurolophus mixed with a Amanita muscaria or Mario mushroom. So just wanted to show you guys that first because I'm really psyched about this. This just came in this week. We'll leave that back up here. Now he probably won't be for sale unless I do some big auction or something. But, let's see, I don't need this right now. But the plan is to try to sell bigger version of my Fungisaurs, these little guys, as an exclusive at Monster Palooza. And I'm going to try that in April. So Monster Palooza is a big expo, and let me show you some stuff. Let's shrink this down. First things first, let's look at Monster City Studios. So you guys can see who, located in Fresno, California. They do custom design, fabrication, large-scale sculpture, all sorts of cool things. You can check out their Instagram over here as well. And there's the 8-axis robot milling things out. And there's my Paradox. So I'll put that link in the Twitch chat so you can check them out. All right. Body 3D on here is asking, hope I'll show separate parts for 3D printing. Yep, I will. I'm going to show some slicing keying stuff right now. Let's see. Jake Kemper's on here. What up, Jake? Wow, it is big, I know. Let's see. Are there any published guides or training for manufacturing toys? Not really. It's not really a one-shot process. It's always different depending on what kind of toy you're trying to make. You have to find a factory and manufacturer or sourcer that can make the specific thing you want to make. So there's no guide for independent toy makers, so to speak. You have to figure it out for yourself. And people like me and other people that are in the toy biz can help you out to a degree. But it's a lot of legwork. Alright, so Monster City Studios is on here. I sent that link to you guys. Next thing I want to show you is Monster Palooza. So Monster Palooza is a big convention of monsters. It's in April in Pasadena, 12th through 14th. And it's my first year showing as a vendor. There's all sorts of really amazing artists and people that come. And let's see. Yeah, all these crazy exhibitors. And you often see like Steve Wang or Rick Baker, like these legends of monster making that just happen to be around. Bruce Campbell's coming this time. That'll be fun. So Monster Palooza is like a big show, and so I wanted to do something special for there. I've got my mystery box toys, but in addition, I wanted to take some bigger prints that I can sell. And so I've been working on a couple. This guy is my C-Rex character. Some of you may have seen him, but he's printed on the Raise 3D, so it's like that machine right there. Pretty big machine. Let me pull that up a bit so you can see the full scale of this. Annoying. There it goes. Yeah. All right, so there's the full scale of this character. So it's about, I'd say 5 times bigger than my actual toys. And this is going to be fully painted and finished to look like the actual toys. And then for Paradox here, I did one as well. And I did a little slicing and keying to get his head off on his own so I could have a bit better orientation for printing. I'm just going to hold it in place for now and show you. So this thing is printed solid, but it's hollow on the inside just because FDM always tends to hollow things out as it goes. And I've keyed the top there with my favorite just tapered square key. And on the negative side, inside the head, basically the negative of that tapered square key, and it just kind of keys into place. So once I epoxy it on and then the whole thing's painted, this thing's going to look pretty sweet. And that's the plan, is to just have a few different scales there to represent. So this is my actual toy. And then this will be that big Fungisaur that we'll be selling. And there's that big one that is just going to be kind of an attraction to the table. So I want to make a few more of these, so that's what I'm going to do in the stream today, is to take my existing Fungisaurs and do some slicing and keying to make them printable for this scale on my Raise. So that's the plan for this stream. Before that, when I do this, open up my streams, I always like to do a bit of show and tell. So I want to do a bit of show and tell. And what I want to show and tell today is some cool projects that I've been working on. So let me scroll this window down. I'll drop the Monster Palooza link in there as well, if you guys want to check that out. Okay. So the first project is Craig Cartwright's GrowBot. So I want to show you guys what's been going on with it since I sculpted it in my last stream. For those of you that are new to seeing these streams, if you go to google.com, just simply go to Google and then type in ZBrush Live. See what comes up. So ZBrush Live, you can see the first link will take you to presenters. And under presenters, you can see all of these awesome artists that stream live for ZBrush. I'm right there, so you can check out my past broadcasts and schedules. Some of my work there. You can see the 3D printed dress I did for 3D World magazine a little while ago. You can see a bunch of little sculpts and prints I've done for my own 3D Smiths business. And you can see all of my previous streams. So there's like 3 pages of them now. And I've worked a character from start to finish to show you the entire process of my sculpting and printing prep. I've shown some zombie sculpting that I did for CES. Punisher bust I did last week or a few weeks back. And I printed in clear. I don't know if I showed that, so let me show the Punisher bust. And then Craig Cartwright's GrowBot. So I'm going to show you guys a few more cool things for show and tell, and then we'll get started on today's sculpting. Jake Kemper's asking if I do the keying and slicing through booleans now. I've had shifts and not as reliable. Yeah, I do a bit of both, so I'll show a few different processes for it. All right, so first things first, let me show you the Punisher bust, the finished result of it. And I don't think you guys have to work very hard to see that he's kind of see-through. So what I did with this bust, and it's kind of hard to tell, I know, from you guys' vantage point, but it's printed in clear resin. And what I've done is Boolean extracted a skeleton from inside, and then I tried to fill it with just some green paint. So if you look at the bottom, there's a bunch of these holes, the ventilation holes, and I just tried to pour green paint straight down into them to try to fill that skeleton. So now I know next time the skeleton on the inside has got to be a bit more rounded and just a bit more shaped so that it'll get filled with that paint properly. But for a first prototype, I'm pretty happy with it, how it turned out. And that's kind of what 3D printing ideas to reality is all about. You just try different things. Sorry if that seemed a bit distant. Getting the mic set. Alright, so that was the Punisher project. And you can see me sculpt that from the demo head to looking like the actor John Bernthal here. Next one was the GrowBot. So let me click on that. So the GrowBot started as a demo I did for Toy Fair last year. And I basically went through and showed how I go about detailing in ZBrush, posing, rotating, proportions, all of that stuff. And slowly but surely, we get our character. And I sculpted some hands for him, mostly just primitive shapes that I move into place, rotate, scale, deform, adding little bits of detail. And this is basically the finished GrowBot, and I wanted to show you what happened with it. So I printed that one out on my raise as well. And first things first, I guess I should show you the concept. Alright, so this is the concept for Craig's GrowBots. He wanted a terrarium dome with plants living inside as the head for the body of a robot. So, navigate over to my prints. And you know what? Let me play some music while we're at it. What is this one? That would work. Double check it's not too loud. Alright, got the jazz going. Some more questions rolling through. Thomas Davis asking, did you put a team together for your Fungisaurs project, or did you work on all that on your own? I think you always have to put a bit of team together in order to accomplish something big. I'm going to show you something cool that I had to put a team together for later in this thing. But mostly, yeah, Fungisaurs.com. You can check out Aiman3D.com. I did it all on my own in terms of sculpting all the ZBrush characters and figuring out how to print prototype them, figuring out my factory and sourcing, going to Hong Kong, visiting the factory, running through the process. You can even check out my Kickstarter page for Fungisaurs, and in the updates I go through a lot of the stuff about my factory and how I did it. Okay, so back to the GrowBot. What I want to show you guys is how it came along. Quickest way, I guess, to do that would be to just jump on my Instagram and scroll a sec. You can see the Punisher bust on here. And actually, let me show you the Punisher bust. You can see a bit more of the internals now on the still image. There's the clavicle getting filled in with the paint, but not so completely successful. Like the bottom of the chin didn't get filled in. So definitely improvements to be made next time I do this. So the GrowBot, let's get it open. Come on, internet. There's the finished GrowBot. 3D printed on my raised 3D machine back here, with a terrarium head applied on top. And there he is, fully assembled, before I did the sanding. So I didn't print him, you know, all in one piece like that. I printed him all sliced and keyed up, with my usual favorite, just, you know, tapered square keys. So I'm going to show a little bit of that process today. And here you can see what I mean by it being hollow as it prints, because in FDM you can set these settings to have an internal scaffolding, and it'll basically slice it to use the least amount of material. So this is the print as it is now, but what is the plan for it? So let me show you. I believe I have another image. Alright, so this is Craig's rendering of what he would imagine the final GrowBot looking like. So he's going to actually paint it up and make it look all rusty. And this is worked on top of a render of my ZBrush file. But that's kind of be what it finally looks like. And I'm going to Toy Fair in New York next week, and I'll see it in person because Craig's going to hopefully have it on display alongside my Fungisaurs for their Inventor Day. Alright, so that's kind of the evolution of the GrowBot project. I always want to try to show you the finished product as much as possible when I'm sculpting something in the stream. So that's that. Moving right along then to the next project that I worked recently. And I might actually turn the jazz down for this, because this one's pretty cool. Let's see. Tomas is asking, what do you use to smooth out and fill the lines on your FDM prints? I wonder if I have it lying around somewhere right now. Nope, not easily. Alright, well, I can just show you a link to it. Just smooth on XTC 3D. So this is what I use to smooth out my FDM prints. It's a two-part resin mix solution called Smooth On, and you mix the two parts of the resin, and then with the brush you can apply it on, and then just wait for it to cure, and then you can sand it. So it can come in like all shapes and sizes. I usually get the small box because a little bit of XTC goes a long way, and I've been using the same box I've gotten for almost a year. I don't do a ton of FDM printing, but it's a really great way to smooth your prints. You can see some different projects with it applied on here. But yeah, it's a great way to smooth prints, but you do need to let it cure properly. So yeah, check that out. It works for both PLA or ABS. It doesn't melt anything. It just fills out the print. You'll lose a little bit of detail because it's just going to glaze over it, but you can sand it and kind of bring it back. Alright, so I wanted to show another cool project that I was a part of recently in December. I was contracted by BuzzFeed and DreamWorks to make 3 dragons for DreamWorks How to Train Your Dragon movie, The Hidden World, that's coming out right now, as a promotion for it. So they basically had this idea where BuzzFeed had this idea where they had a bunch of kids submit videos of what their dream dragon would look like. And then they had a concept artist flush those designs out and, you know, design those dragons based on the kids' feedback. Then I came in and sculpted, and along with my team, I had 3 different artists help me sculpt because it was a really short deadline. It was 2 weeks to pull the whole thing off. We sculpted 3 dragons, and then I engineered them all to key and slice and fit together, and then printed them out. So I'm going to show you the video, and then after that I'll show you one of the dragons that I sculpted and show you how I kind of went about doing it. So first things, let's bring this up. Pause the jazz. You guys see that on your screen? Let me hide my little camera view. And let's play this.
You know how in sharks, if you pet this way, it really hurts and it can poke you and stuff.
I don't know, I've never pet a shark before.
And neither have I, it's just a fact.
Hi, I'm Linnea.
My name is Eli.
And my name is Elton.
And today we're going to be working with a concept artist to build my dream dragon.
My name is Adam, and I'm the concept artist that will be working with the kids to design their dream dragons for DreamWorks' How to Train Your Dragon: The Hidden World. The kids know that they'll be getting a piece of concept art from me, but what they don't know is that I'll be partnering up with my friends Aiman and Kim
to transform the artwork into fully rendered and 3D printed
painted 3D models.
The movie comes out February 22nd, so we better get started.
Let's get cracking.
All right.
Let's do it.
Hi, Linnea.
Hi.
How are you doing?
Good.
Good. Tell me about your dragon.
She is 6 feet tall. It's like owlish.
Okay, owl size?
Yeah.
His head makes up 3 foot,
Uh-huh.
his body makes up 6 foot, and his tail makes up 1 foot.
She's not really an ordinary dragon. Neptune breeds hot pink cotton candy.
Ooh. When you said it's owl featured,
Talons,
does it have
beak. The feathers are like stardust and sprinkled
it
it
all
on.
over it? Great.
What do you think the hardest part's gonna be?
The wings, because I told him that they move like this.
Basically, what he does is he breathes fire
Uh-huh.
to tell you jokes, and then
Breathes fire jokes. I like it.
So how did the brainstorm go with Adam?
it went awesome.
Yeah?
He wrote down everything I told him.
What does her face look like?
Well, she has beautiful green eyes, and she has very long eyelashes that curl up.
Great. I'm gonna go work on these drawings, and then we'll come back and have a dream dragon for you.
All right.
Sound good?
Yep.
So are you excited to see your dragon?
Yes, I'm very excited. I'm pretty sure that it'll be a good dragon because he seems like a good artist.
My overall plan is, first of all, to study the original drawings by Nico Marley and see if I can emulate some of what he has done. To start with a rough sketch, you take all the information that was given to you and you just start playing around and seeing how you can push the design choices and ultimately focus on the story of their dragons. I think for Elton's dragon, my favorite pieces to play with involved the fact that it isn't a standard sort of large-sized dragon. It's meant to sort of perch on your arm. And then the long tail with the splayed feathers. It's oddly practical. I think it would help a creature with small wings actually fly in a straight line. I think Linnea has described herself a little bit in this one. I think she fashions herself as being somewhat quirky, a little offbeat, and the desire for individuality and sort of the fact that she wants to praise that, I really appreciate in Linnea's design. Eli's proportions were tough because a 1 foot tail doesn't give you a lot to work with. His head is half the size of his body, so I had to massage that a little bit to try and make the balance of shapes work a little bit more effectively. The humor involved allows me to play with caricature in a way that is very silly and fun, and I really enjoy silly. If I can make myself laugh, the drawing is successful. So now that we're done with the drawings, we're gonna ship these off to the modelers and they will take it from there to create the sculpts.
This was a really exciting project for us, but usually we have about a month or so to put together a character of this scale. This time we had 2 weeks to put together 3 dragons at 15-inch size. We loved Adam's character designs, but we had to make some changes for 3D print, specifically when it came to engineering a product that looks good from all angles. We're using 3D printers that have a max build volume of between 6 to 7 inches, and these dragons were going to be 15 inches tall and wide. I'm super excited to see how the kids will react to seeing the scale of the finished products. These prints are big.
I'm definitely impressed with Aiman's sculpts, and Adam's concept art is a good starting point for me to get into full creative mode. I definitely have my work cut out for me, so I better get to work. For Eli, I like that he's a jokester and he breathes fire when he's angry. So I think his teeth could be a little orangey or, you know, some sort of suggestion that fire comes out of there. To move on to Elton's, I'd like to bring in a midnight blue to give him sort of that deep space feeling. Bring in some glitter that'll give a nice sparkle and depth to him. Linnea's dragon breathes pink cotton candy. So I'm gonna do like a pink fluffy color on the wings and on her chest, and I am definitely working towards the reactions of the kids.
How's it going, Eli?
Good.
Hi, Linnea.
Hi.
How's it going, man?
It's good.
All right, well, it's been a little bit since you described your dragon to me,
Good.
but I have your finished dragon. You ready to see it?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yes.
All right.
Oh, that's amazing. Oh, the pizza, the strawberries.
Whoa.
What do you think, man?
It's awesome sauce.
Yeah?
Yeah.
A whole sauce of awesome?
Yes.
Nice.
What? That looks so cool.
He does a little 1 foot tail.
His head is basically half his body, so you got that right.
Yeah? You like her color?
Yes, and her green eyes. Oh, the long eyelashes.
Well, this is for you, buddy.
Sweet. Yay.
Thank you.
Now, if you just want to wait right here for a second, I have to go get something real quick.
Cheese.
What?
Actual dragon.
What do you think?
She's beautiful.
This is epic.
It is awesome sauce.
It has a joke.
It has your joke on it.
How did the guacamole cross the road? He guacked.
This is just what I imagined her looking like.
You took my dragon and made it 3D.
I didn't do it. Everyone here.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
How'd you make this?
We 3D printed it.
You did an awesome job.
I'm glad you like it.
Great work, guys.
I hadn't seen the final until today, so just seeing how it all came together, I got to react to it for the first time as well. So it was their little words to some drawing that I did then.
To a fully rendered 3D model.
Yeah, and then your like flourishes and touches just made it all the better.
You ready to go, guys?
Yeah.
Teleportation.
Front flip.
Teleportation.
Epicness.
All right, so stop that, close that out. Looks like a lot of you enjoyed that. I'll drop the link in there so you can watch it on your own as well. But basically, that was a really cool project that I was really excited to be a part of in December. A lot of people saying amazing job, cute, dope. I'm glad you all like it. It was definitely once in a year kind of project for me when I get something that fun and that big. But yeah, this was the whole team of everyone involved. So got to show and thank everyone of the process. Adam, the concept artist, Kim, the painter, Alex, the producer, Ryan, the cameraman, photographer for all of this. I basically was responsible for sculpting and engineering and printing and assembly, sanding and cleanup and assembly. And here's the finished dragons. And this is the one that I spent the most time on. I sculpted Linnea's dragon, the one with the pizza with strawberries. That was my favorite one. This was sculpted by our friend Daniel De Leon on Instagram as Daniel Lion Arts, I believe. And this was sculpted by my friend Christopher Dean, I think just at Christopher Dean 3D. And also then finished up by me and Alyssa Lesner. Alyssa Lesner is a modeling student of mine from my 3D printing and ZBrush artist course, and she's amazing. So of course I had to bring her onto this. She helped me detail Linnea's dragon as well. So anyways, let's see, which was the hardest model to do? I think this one, Linnea's, was the hardest. I always try to take on the hardest thing myself, just because I don't trust other people to do it as well as I can, just by experience. Also, the wings were massive, so they were this big, so it was just gonna be a nightmare. So I wanted to tackle that myself. I enjoyed the Linnea's the most because, again, I sculpted it myself. So let me show you how I went about it, and you guys can learn a little bit about the process. And that was basically the gist of it, was 3D printing ideas to reality. BuzzFeed approached me with this project in the beginning of December and said, by the end of December, we need this to happen. They took a while to get me the final concept art with Adam. And after that, I just had to go. So let me pull up ZBrush and then load up the model. Let's see. Doo-doo-doo. All right, so let me bring back some jazz now. All right. Now let's pull up these dragons. So that was 2018 BuzzFeed, and I think I want to pull up Linnea's dragon. Don't know if I want to pull up the final. Let me pull up the first pass I did at it first. So you guys can see how it evolved. All right, so first things first, let's see. Let me show you kind of the really rough, quick sketches I did for all the dragons to give to the other modelers to actually make really awesome. So this is one I gave to Daniel, and although he came up with it from scratch, his design, I just kind of wanted to show him the proportions, how I'd block it in, and how I was planning to key it out. Because this was going to be printed on a Form 2. All the pieces needed to be less than 7 inches. So it required some creative keying. This is Eli's dragon, how I planned to have it proportioned out and keyed. The Linnea's dragon, don't even know if I have it on here because I just started sculpting it directly. So this is the first pass at it, and I'll show you the pieces, just so you understand that even if it's complex, it's not really that complex when you start it off. So here's the base of the body, the base of the wings, and these are made of 2 different parts. So really janky looking wing parts, wing skin, and then the framing of the, I guess, the skeleton of the wing. And it had to rest on the floor. This is something I'm always thinking about when 3D printing, is the engineering aspect. So it had to rest on the floor in order to support the weight of those wings. Kind of drape on it. Other wing, here's the head. Super simple shapes that I sculpt really quickly and then assemble, but all together when they're finished, they create the whole piece. Here's the pizza with the strawberries on it. That was definitely fun. Alright, so let's go ahead and pull up the final model too, so you guys can see how it evolved from this to the finish. You know what, I want to pull up the scale guide because I think that one has the first pass of Linnea's as well. Nope, not there. Darn. Alright, moving on. Okay. Okay, so here we go. This is how I planned out how I would be cutting up Linnea's model, or Linnea's dragon model. And this is what you've got to do. This is the first step when you're imagining a 3D print. You got to figure out the scale, and the way I do this is I have this Form 2 build volume, and I laid it out next to each other, kind of in a row, and said, okay, it would need to fit into this many build volumes, and this is our max. We cannot go any bigger than this. And so you can see the tail does come out, but that's basically the box area that everything needed to fit in. Alright, so once I had the plan, then I could start slicing and keying up. But let me show you the finished model before we did that. need to turn off. I can't wait for the folders in the new ZBrush. I'm part of the beta testing team right now, so I'm making some requests to them specific to 3D printing. I'm just drafting my email so I can be like, change this, change this. Alright. We got a bunch of pieces in here, so I need to turn them all on and figure out which ones that I need on. But this gives you a good idea of how I work. Nah, that's not gonna work. Let me pull up the finished model. There we go. Alright, is this it? That doesn't look like the finished model. I definitely fell in the trap of poorly labeling all this stuff. Final keyed. Let's try this one. Thomas is asking, did you print all the models or did you have your team also print some of the parts? How long was the print time? Yeah, I'll definitely get into that shortly. Alright, so here's the finished model. This was wrapped up by Alyssa Lesner. As you can see, she redefined the thickness of the wings because I said, you know, they got to be a lot thicker than my quick design. They got to be sharper, and they're supposed to look like steel. She added all the skin detail, which looks amazing. Just mesh extracted on top of the existing. Added the ribbing in the chest here. The teeth she refined. Yeah, Alyssa did a great job. She defined a lot of the detail on the nails. So you can see now they're a bit more detailed. And at the end I did another quick pass, just refining the details, punching it up a bit, and then filling in some areas in the teeth, adding more detail to the bread, and got it ready to print. So then let's navigate over to the finished print files, and you can see those. So I color my prints green when I'm like ready to send these out to print, and because I built all of these with this Form 2 build volume in my scene, I knew that I didn't need to worry about the 3D print exporter. I didn't need to worry about exporting STLs or anything strange like that. Because this was all built to scale, I could just finish my model in ZBrush, export as an OBJ just using the Z tool menu, and then get it ready to print. So these are all the final models that went to print. So you can see they're pretty low res, you know, down to like 300K polys even after hollowing. You can see they're hollowed. Hide half the model. Turn on my display properties double. So I'm pretty conservative with the shelling, leaving a lot of space on the inside and smoothing at that detail. I smooth out all the detail on the inside just to make it all easier to print. And there's some ventilation holes. Here's where some of the back of the head horns kind of key in, and there's another ventilation hole on the inside. And then it's just kind of connecting all of these various parts. So there's the end of the tail. And I'll just kind of slowly go through and turn all of these parts on. Legs, arm with the pizza. So this was an interesting challenge here because it had to be, it was kind of heavy. I wanted to make sure the limbs were printed solid. So I had to key it on the arm, but also on the end of the thumb, right onto the body, to make sure it had some extra support for that pizza section. And honestly, scale is what determined how I'd have to key these parts. With the wings, they were way too big to print on my Form 2, so I ended up printing them on my Raise 3D right down there in FDM. And then I did that XTC method and make sure they were like nice and smoothed out. That way I only had to print them in 2 pieces, just kind of a bottom and a top. So the bottoms I believe I printed on the Form 2, and the tops I printed on the Raise. Here's the body. So everything almost keys into the body. Here's the back of the wings where I left a big groove. The arm, the bottom of the body. It's kind of like creating your own 3D puzzle. That's what this process is like. I'm just going to turn on all these little horns in the back now too. Those were quick, small, simple prints. And there's the finished, completed dragon, ready to print. So if I do a quick expose, here's all the parts. And that's kind of what it takes to print something to that scale. Because this was 15 inches tall and wide. So to answer your question, Thomas, how long did it take to print? These guys, I had something like a week to print all 3 of them. It was really rushed, so I ended up scaling really quickly. I borrowed my friend Tyler Bolliard's printer, Daniel's printer, had 3 printers running here, 3 Form 2s, in addition to my Raise. And then I had my friend Miguel Guerrero do some prints for me, my friend Kay Chong did some prints for me, and also Chris and Casey Dombos from Arcane Visionaries, another shop in LA. So I had a total, I think, 8 or 9 printers running at the same time in order to pull this off. And they took a while. I mean, they took, you know, something like 10 hours per part to print. So you can imagine something like this, if that's just one part. That's not considering everything else, you know? So yeah, it was a really complex, really hard job, but I pulled it off. And that's what really matters in Hollywood is, can you deliver? And really anywhere in your industry, you know, it's just about delivering. If you take something on, do your best and make it happen. All right, Sean Lake's on here. What up, buddy? Thanks for joining. Let's see. Did you have issues in Mesh Mixer allowing you to add the drainage holes? So Sean's been on me. I need to get back on a project. I'm helping him out because he's been having some trouble doing the drainage holes in Mesh Mixer, and I don't. I usually do it in ZBrush whenever I can. So all of these drainage holes were created in ZBrush. The good thing about using a software like Mesh Mixer is you can be a lot more specific. You can be like, hey, I want this to print 3 millimeters or 5 centimeters, and you can be very specific on the amount of drainage holes you want. But in ZBrush, you kind of have to just wing it when you do the create shell. But no, I did all of the drainage holes in ZBrush and it worked out. Thomas is saying, wow, awesome that I can scale so quickly. So I didn't know that I would be able to pull it off. I just had to ask a lot of friends for favors and then cut a lot of people in on it. So, you know, when money's involved and you can charge rush fees and you can make sure your friends are paid, you know, then I'm down to scale. Otherwise, it's tough to scale so quickly. All right, so that was basically the dragon's job, and let me show you the finished, let me show you the finished renderings of how it turned out. Sean saying, did I render an Unreal Engine? None of these are render shot. Alright, here. So this is turntable out of ZBrush. Let's see here. Turn down this jazz just a touch. Alright, let's see if this plays. Of course, it's gonna try to mess with me now. There we go. Let's see if it loops now. Dude, I turned on loop. Loop. Play. Full screen. So these are the final models and what was approved by DreamWorks that they liked and said, yeah, go for it. It was pretty fun for me. I liked stylized sculpting, so this was a really fun project because I'd love to work on this kind of stuff for DreamWorks, Disney, all of these guys. And lately I've been getting a lot of higher profile projects like this from Disney and DreamWorks and Nickelodeon. I don't know, maybe it's just you put in 4 or 5 years in LA and then things start lining up. I guess it's being known for delivering and not being a dick. Alright, so that was that. And let's close out of this. And let's start up on today's project. So I've got about another hour now. Show and tell portion is done. And then we'll move on to getting that ready for print too. Thank you all for joining me on Friday morning for my stream. Hope you guys are making some time to sculpt on your stuff as well. Can't all be about jobs. You gotta make some time to sculpt your own things. Alright, so first thing I'm gonna do, I guess, is find my Fungisaurs and open up some of them. Alright, so this is my salamander character. It's a Dimetrodon mixed with the turkey tail mushroom. That's what Fungisaurs is about to me. It's about experimenting, creating more of these stylized characters, but making sure they're print ready, toy ready. So this one's all decimated and ready to go. Let me show you how he started off. So that was my first pass at it. Sculpted all in ZBrush. I did some quick poly painting on top. So the first prototype or pass, this character looked too old. You know, I wanted all these Fungisaurs to be little babies. So I had to change some of the proportions. I had to make his head bigger. I had to make the eyes bigger, and that's what you see here in the final. That was sent to print, and then we did a prototyping in toys from. Bigger eyes, bigger head proportions, makes it look more baby-like. Alright, so the goal now is to get this guy ready for print at that scale, like this scale. Make sure that my screen is big enough and you guys can see it. Alright, so at this scale, which is like, I don't know, about like 5 inches tall or something like that, now to get this guy ready for it. So I'm going to be bouncing around all over the place trying to just figure a few things out. But first things first is thinking about how I'm going to orient this on my rays. So the printer is big enough to where I can fit all of it in one go. The question is, it's 12 inches, so yeah, this will definitely fit within 12 inches. But for this one, I think it's pretty simple. It can be oriented just like this and build upwards. Let's try that out. export this on my desktop. Salamander 1 is an OBJ. And it's like 700,000 polys. I may want to actually decimate it a tad more, but let's see. Alright, so I'm opening Idea Maker. This is the software I use for print prepping my stuff for Raise 3D. And you can see it's a really tall printer, so I can print like 24 inches tall. And I still haven't done that. I printed like one thing that was like 20 something inches, but I really, haven't taken full advantage of the massive scale of this printer yet. 12 by 12 is enough for most of my needs. So let's import my model in here and start thinking about it. Okay, Salamander 1, bringing in that OBJ. Alex Antuna says hello everyone on YouTube. What's up, Alex? Thanks for joining. Zophos, I can hear the Fungisaurs theme in my head. Alright, so this is the scale I've been printing these characters at in for my toys, for the mystery box toys. They're max of like 3 inches basically. So let's get this guy oriented. So this is how I'd print it if I just wanted the 3-inch toy. However, I've got a lot of space here to use up, so I can scale them up. So I'm just going to go to the Scale tab, and instead of like, let's make it like 5 inches and see what happens. Maybe let's try 10. Try to be a bit more precise with this. Let me measure my C-Rex, see how tall he is. Looks like he's about 8 inches tall at its highest point, and about almost 11 inches from end to end. So let's try 11 inches. And that way it's at least fitting almost completely in the build volume, almost as big as I can make it. Let's go one more even. And you can see it turn red because it doesn't fit anymore, but we can rotate it and make sure it fits in the build volume. Alright, so the good thing about FDM is since it builds upward vertically, this character is perfectly designed to print in one go. The problem I'd have, however, is this head. So if you look at this head, because it's already got the lower jaw, and that'll be supported really well, the top one won't be. All of this will be overhang. So let me show you what I mean. If I go to supports and I click on my model and click create auto supports, let's see what it does. So mostly the supports are at the bottom as expected. Some of them are coming up along the sides, but the entire mouth gets filled. And that's going to be a real pain in the butt to remove all those supports. So what I like to do for character heads is to pop that top of the head off and key that on later as its own piece. So that's the first thing I'm going to do. Sean's freaking out about another software package. Idea Maker is free. It ships with the Raise 3D. So if you get a Raise 3D printer, you'll get the Idea Maker software. And I think you can download it online too. It's pretty good for prepping for FDM and showing you these kinds of things. So now I know that I'm going for 12-inch height, and I know that I need to remove the head. So let's go back at ZBrush, duplicate my model here, and what I want to do is simply key off the top of the head so that it'll come and sit on later on its own. So I'm going to select my mask lasso, and you know what, first thing I've got to do, this is a decimated mesh, I've got to Dynamesh. So let's go to Dynamesh, let's try 100. I like to Dynamesh really quick, dirty first. Alright, so that's way too low res, I lose a lot of detail, so let's try 1000. Alright, someone on YouTube saying, great mustache, you're like a Ukrainian Cossack. I like it, man. Might put on some Ukrainian Cossack music later then. Let's see if I can find some. And Los Davis saying, you've inspired me to sculpt. Hope to catch you later. Okay. Daniel Rodriguez saying, can you lower the music volume? Yeah, for sure, man. Let's try to lower that down a bit. That's the good thing about live streaming. You guys can correct me on the fly. Alright, so that is Dynameshed, about 3.8 million polys, and a lot of detail is there. Probably don't even need it that big. So let's try 800. See if I can work with a somewhat more reasonable file size. Alright, here we go. So I didn't lose much detail at 800 resolution, so this looks good. And I'll show you how I go about doing my slicing and keying. So I'm going to select my mask lasso, and I'm going to just try to start selecting the parts of the model that I want separated out on their own. Now I've got a pretty good thing going here with the natural seam, with the key line, with how this head is fitting into the wrinkled part of his body. I'm gonna swing over to the other side and switch from my mask lasso to my mask pen. Make sure this is extending all the way to that wrinkle line. And I'm just masking right now, trying to figure out the best seam for this character. Select all of that top. Probably don't want to select too much of the jaw. The lower jaw can print with the body. So right now it's just selecting the upper jaw. So step one is just masking. Like that, like that. Adjusting my mask size so I can do it a bit quicker. But when you make that too big, then it starts selecting things at the bottom. Got some comments here about liking my desktop background, the bumblebee, which, I don't know, have you guys seen the movie? I really enjoyed it. It was really fun for me. It's kind of like Iron Giant, but redone for modern times. It was kind of how I pictured Transformers before Michael Bay got his hands on. Alright, so there you go. That's all been masked. Double check it from the top. Yeah, that's all looking good. And I can work with the rest. So basically what I want to do now is, if you'll notice, if I turn on polyframe, all of it is one group. And what I want to do is just group that section that's masked. So I'm going to go to my poly groups here under my tool menu, and I'll say group masked. Do that a couple times just to make sure it took. And so there I can see there's my lower half and there's my upper half. So I'm basically, this is what I want to print out of my rays in one go, and then I want this to print separately. So now that they're separate, I'm going to do split hidden, and then it'll break this apart into two models. So I've got two subtools now. There's the body, and there's the head. Now I can go in my head, and I can just simply Dynamesh it, and it'll close these holes. So I'll go to Geometry, Dynamesh, make sure I'm looking at it and doesn't lose any detail. That's good. Basically, that just filled in that hole, and I can start smoothing this out. Now, it's not ideal yet. It's got a lot of negative space which we'll need to fill, but it's a start. Actually, you know what? Let me try one thing before I smooth. If I Dynamesh with groups on, I believe it keeps its own, it makes a new group for that area. Yep, just like that. Made a new group for it. So that's really useful. Not always. Looks like it's kind of a floating group on top of the existing group, which is a pain. So, it doesn't always work as expected. It's going to Dynamesh as is. And smooth. Want to make sure your back face masking is on, so that when you smooth, you're not smoothing the other side, the important detail that you like. So this is basically step 1, or step 2, because masking, split, and then Dynamesh. So we'll come back to that in a second. Do the same down here. Geometry Dynamesh, fill in that area. So that's all filled in. So this is a bit more custom. Sometimes you can key a lot easier by just Boolean subtracting, or you can do a negative and a positive. I'm going to show you the negative and positive subtraction technique, just because this is a bit more custom keying. Sean's saying, do you ever project your high-res detail onto a slightly lower Dynamesh version to get ready for printing? Yeah, I've done that before, for sure. It's a good way to keep detail when you reduce your poly count. Alright, Ruth Cookie is saying, music is making it difficult to hear you as it's louder even though it's smooth. Not sure the music is loud anymore. I think I've turned the volume down quite a bit. Anyone else bugged by the music? Let me know. Alright, so now that that is smooth, now I can start thinking about how these two pieces will fit on top of each other. Alright, so right now they'll sit on top of each other, but they're not keyed in place. So I want to make sure I've got a nice key there. Alright, so people are bugged by the music. Let me lower that down even further. Alright. Polygon on here. What's up, Polygon? I was catching your stream the other day. Polygon is another streamer on ZBrush. He does a great job. I think he's got his own Twitch channel too, which I should really get into looking for myself. Alright, so what I want to do now is create a way for this head to kind of sit into the body. And this area is perfect for me to have a key going into it. Robert T saying volume hasn't gone down at all on my end. Might be some interesting mic setting. You know what? I'm just going to turn the music off then. At least you guys will be able to hear what I'm saying now with the mic. Alright, so back on this now. There's the head, and I want to make a tapered square key into the body. Alright, so what I'm going to do now is select all of this inside area, flatten it out, and start making the shape I want. So this way you guys can understand what keying is really about. I'll start with my mask lasso again. Select all of this internal area. Deselect the external part that I don't want. And I'll go in with my mask pen. Turn on my, see, I believe it's in samples. No, it's in, see, auto masking, back face mask. And you want to hold control as you do this, so it'll only turn it on for your mask. That way I can be sure that I'm control clicking here, but it's not going to mask the other end. All right. So I'm going to mask a little bit more of this base, just so I have it as a selection area. Invert that mask, now I have that to work with. And I'm going to pull it out. And there's a few different ways I could do this. I could try to just flatten it this way. And just have it super clean like that. Or I could try to, you know, sculpt it out a bit and think about how I want it. Basically just filling in that space. The Dynamesh didn't properly. Dynamesh isn't very smart. You have to kind of think for it. And a pinch right there. Do some H polish. Kind of flatten that out. Inflate. This is how I go about doing a custom keying. So I'll show you the hard way first, and then I'll show you the easy way. Alright, so it's kind of like two parts right now. Got the tops and the side. And let me make sure if this is going to work as I expect. You can turn on transparency mode, see it on the head. And I think that'll work well, because now that'll give me a flat space to have my tapered square key come out of. And all of this area is filled, so it's not taking up any space. Drop my mask selection, smooth out those edges, clean up all of this. Alright, now that head is ready for me to start working it the way I want. So now that I've got this part done, I'm going to go to my keys brush, and this is something I've created beforehand, where I've got lots of different types of keys already assembled in 3D. And I might make this available on Gumroad soon, but there's my tapered square that I use, and I can just draw it on my model. And now I've got the tapered square. Now you can make this for yourself pretty easily. You can just take a cube. Let me show you how to make it, because it's super simple. Switch over to this, go to a cube 3D, make it a polymesh 3D, draw it out, go to display deformations, go to taper, and under the Y, that's all you need selected, you can just taper it down. And there you go. You got your tapered square key. Now you can, point it in the direction you're looking at it, and go create insert mesh brush, new, and there's your insert cube 3D. So I'll use that. So you get the idea, and then you can draw it on. So pretty straightforward, simple cube key. People, lunchtime's already. I'm going to draw that on, make sure it's pretty big, and I'll make sure that that is keyed into the head. Scale it up a bit. I like to make my keys as big as I can within the space. Alright, so that then, if we take a look, in transparency mode, will fit in, or plug in, so to speak, directly into the bottom of the body, or into the neck. So I'm going to split unmask points on my tapered square key. I'm going to Dynamesh it. So go to Geometry, Dynamesh, and I'll duplicate it. Duplicate the subtool. And now I can deformation inflate it. So I can have a cutter as well as the key. So let's take a look. So this is the cutter and this is the key. So the cutter is basically just a bit larger. And so I'm planning in for a little bit of tolerance for the key to come into rather than complete perfect extraction. So I'll merge the head down onto the key, and all of this can be Dynameshed together now. So that looks good. Might still do some work on the inside here. Make sure that's nice and settled. But there's the top of the head, kind of on its own now. And I'll basically subtract. So I'll duplicate this, merge down onto my larger piece, and I'll have this head be the cutter. So I'll Geometry Dynamesh that. Duplicate that. And I'm going to set this to be a Boolean cutter off of this mesh. So I want to make sure both of my meshes are Dynamesh first for this to work. So that one is correct. Group is Dynamesh sub, which is under polygroups. Group as Dynamesh sub. And then it's basically going to be cutting out of this top part. So let's try it as is and see how it works. So the way I've done it before is to just merge down on top of the head and then Dynamesh. And because it was set as a cutter, it should subtract out from the body. And there we go. There's our key. So this is how you go about custom keying. And I can show you a lot of different ways to do keying a lot easier and faster. But this is kind of the basic process you have to understand. Smooth this out a bit. And what I want to do now is have this lower jaw, I guess the side, I don't know, gums, kind of extend up into the bottom of the head. So I will select them, make them a bit taller. And this will be kind of an extra little secondary key, because these will go into the head. Keep it all in place. Pull those up. You can make them deep or as tall as you want to. They'll be internals. And I'll duplicate this mesh now and have that be the cutter. So I'll switch this to be cutter, maybe deform, inflate just a bit. Dynamesh that. Side effects on here. What's up, side effects? Long time no see. All right, here we go. So now that is my group as Dynamesh sub, and it'll become, you know, a slightly different polygroup color. And this is my head, so I want to basically merge it down again. And now the body will cut out of the head, and it should leave me with a little negative here for the gums. Let's try that out. All right, let's see. There we go. There's a little negative in there now. Spot for this to sit onto. Try to cut a little bit out of here too, which we don't need. So I'm just going to smooth that out. And yeah, this is ready to now decimate. Dynamesh, decimate, and then go to print. So because we went to Idea Maker earlier and we saw what scale we can export it at, 12 inches tall, I can plan to do that right now. And I can also make any sculpt adjustments I want to hide these keys a bit better. So increase the wrinkling on the neck a bit, just so it isn't so conspicuous. So that hides my seam a bit better. And yeah, that should look pretty clean. Okay, so now if we're sending this to print, what we want to do is decimate and then export it. So I'm going to go to Z plugin, decimation master, pre-process current, and then decimate it. Shib1 is saying, hi, are you working on an animation? I'm an interested noob. Yes, I am working on an animated pitch for Fungisaurs to Netflix, to whoever really wants to help me make it. And it's just a matter of getting the game done first, getting the toys distributed, and then I can focus more full-time on the animated series. But hopefully by this year's September, I can really get into launching that animation pitch. I'll probably be pretty busy working till then on this stuff, on just the toy line and the game. I'm excited. Right now, the game is where it's all at. You know, I think the augmented reality game, I'll have all the assets so that way I can make the character models, get them rigged, get them animated, and it'll look really good. All right, so that's decimated. Simple process. Same thing for the body, pre-process and then decimate. All right, that's pre-processed. Let's decimate that down. And 20% of 2.6 million, 528,000 polys. That should work pretty well. All right, I'm not worried about the rest of this. I think FDM printing, just bottom to top, will be able to do a good job on everything. Now that I've popped the head off, I think it's going to be a good, clean print. So what I want to do is print both of these together. So I'm going to merge down, have both of these pieces on the same mesh. You save my scene. Alright, scene saved. And I can now go to my 3D print hub and figure out the scale I want to export it so that it'll pop into rays at the right, settings. So I'm going to switch to inches. I'm going to click on update size ratios. And it really doesn't matter what you select on here, but I'm working in inches, so I'll select the inches one. And right now we see that in Z it's 4 inches long, and that's the longest axis. So I'm guessing that's this way. What I want to do is adjust the height, which is Y. And let's set that to 12 inches. And I think that should, in theory, work. Unless I believe ZBrush may be Z upward. Let's see. That's one way to find out. So I'm going to set this height to 12. And we'll export this out as is. Now see, then that makes the Z 21 inches. That can't be right. So I'm going to set the highest axis to 12, and I'll click Export to STL. Save it on my desktop. Oh, I forgot the important setting. This is one of the things I'm going to ask ZBrush to change in the new beta. Under Export Options, you always have to go from All and click on Selected. That way it'll only export that selected subtool, not everything. Now I'll do it again. 12, yep, export to STL. Just call it Salamander 2. Ooh, Vitaly Huncharenko found some Cossack music for me. That's awesome. But I don't know what's up with the music as far as you guys hearing it on the stream. I feel like it's too loud for you. I'll have to do some experimentation listening to the Twitch stream later, not bugging you guys, and then try to play some music. Alright, so I'm going to go back into Idea Maker. I'm going to clear the supports. This is the scale I'm going for. But now let's import my model, Salamander 2. Now this is an STL that was exported at 12 inch from ZBrush, so let's see if it's correct. Okay, so now that is super duper duper tiny. I don't know why it's so tiny. It may have brought it in at millimeters because the scale of the scene was set to millimeters. So I'm going to create a new scene. So just clean and then import it. It's going to load the models in. Still super tiny. Let's check the scale. Oh, that's why it didn't export out properly in inches. Weird. But it should still be proportional. So let's set the longest axis here to 12. Let's rotate it in place. And let's go to the top and rotate it once more so that it fits on the build plate. Bit large still, so maybe I'll make it a bit smaller. Or maybe not. Maybe you just have to move it slightly. Whoa. Okay, so the reason it's red right now is it's saying the model is invalid. And that's probably because it needs a little bit of repairing and it's 2 pieces. So what I want to do is go to split this model up. So I'm going to right click on it and I'm going to do a, let's see, auto ungroup. And this is going to split the two different, the head and the body then. Alright, that did the trick there. There's the body and there's the head. So now I can bring the head on down to the floor on platform. Let's move that in place. And maybe find a slightly better orientation for it. Just like that. Move it over. And they're still red, so let's see if we can repair these. I believe there's a function to do that in Idea Maker right here, clicking on Repair. And this is just going to check for any holes in the mesh or anything like that, and it'll fix those. In theory. Alright, so this model is looking like it's repaired. The other one isn't still. See some triangles and non-manifold edges, so let's see if the auto repair will work now. Usually Dynamesh takes care of these, but maybe the Decimate added some in. No, it's still not fixing it. Wonder why not. Well, I know for a fact that it's been Dynameshed and decimated, so there really shouldn't be any issues with it. Let's try. On platform. Repair again. Nah, won't work for some reason. I know the model is good though, so let me just try to prep it anyway. Alright, so this should work. I'm going to select both of these models, look at it from the top view, get them arranged right in the middle of the build platform. And go to my slicing now. So all you need to do to slice in Idea Maker is you click Start. And you can do speed, standard, high quality. I think in this case I want to do standard quality. And you know what? Before I do that, let me add the supports. So I'll click Supports, create Auto Supports. So I know from working on in Idea Maker for a bit, you want to add some extra supports to any area that's looking like it's an island on its own. So I'm going to add some more extra supports on this end of the beak, big chunky ones, and then same thing down here, just so these pieces don't fall off. Now you don't really need supports for FDM printing, it's just different styles, and my style is I like to have supports rather than not. But you can come in here and remove certain supports too. I don't think I'm going to use any of these supports in the top. That should be fine. That should be fine. I think all of that should be fine without supports. Alright, cool. I think all of that should be good to go. Might add some more supports around the base of these, just so it kind of holds it in place. Vitali's saying, do you have Formlabs? Yeah, I've got a Formlabs right here behind me. I use that for high-res printing, but for larger scale printing, I'll use this Raise 3D machine, my N2 Plus. Let me add some more manual supports just to kind of keep this all in place as I build it. I don't really need these. These are just me being, you know, a bit conservative. to be like just in case. Because it'll make a raft for all of these anyways. But I've had issues where the printer will not hold the supports in place properly before it prints. So I just want to add a few extras. And once I do that, then this will be ready to go. So, bit boring part for you guys, but bear with me. Just gonna go in here and add a bunch of these big chunky supports. You can see if I go too high on this, then it starts trying to build a support to the top, and I don't need that. Just want a support to the bottom here. Alright, I know the music was loud for you guys earlier, but I'm going to try playing some of this Cossack music as low as it can go, and then let's see how it sounds. Let's try something different. I'm going to turn up my max speaker volume. Then lower this. This is Cossack music shared by Vitaly Hocharenko. Sounds pretty good. It's kind of like an American Idol thing, but a Cossack Idol. It sounds pretty good. I'd like to hear this kind of thing live. I am planning a trip out to Croatia this year and also neighboring countries, so hopefully I get a chance to pull that off July or August. I like traveling whenever I can. So now you just see people applauding. Side Effects saying I'm from Croatia. Cool. Are you still there, Side Effects, or are you around somewhere else? Ian Fife is saying, do you need us to call Animal Control to take care of the bear with you? I don't know what you mean, man. No bears here, as far as I can see. Alright, so a little bit more supports here along the edge of the tail, and I think that should do the trick. This is me just being extra careful, because sometimes FDM parts will print, but they don't adhere to the supports. Alright, I think this one is ready to go, so I'm going to now get this ready to print. I'm going to save this Idea Maker file. Salamander Big Print 1, my desktop. And I'm going to just click on Start to Slice. Oh, nice. Well, why don't you DM me on Twitch, Side Effects, and then I'll see about trying to hit you up when I'm there, if I make it out to Croatia. All right, what do you think about Ultimaker 2? Garuda is asking. I've heard nothing but good things about it. I've seen my friends use it, and I've used it through 3D Hubs. Never owned it myself, but I've heard good things about it. All right, so Doom's asking, what is this made? Guides for 3D printing? Yeah, I mean, my stream is all about ZBrush and 3D printing. So 3D printing from ideas to reality. This is my idea now to print a big character. So this is me doing the last part of that process, getting that ready to print. So I'm going to go to the standard slicing, and I'll make sure that it is using the support structures. Let's slice it up. All right, Vector 9000 on Twitch is saying, will you sculpt today or just slicing? Well, I already did the sculpting part of my demo earlier. So yeah, you can check that out later when it's posted to the channel, ZBrush channel. Oh. Here's the sculpt I did in ZBrush. And the slicing keying. I guess, yeah, that was it for the slicing part. I'm going to maybe have to get started on another Fungisaurs so I can start thinking about that one. Just load up another one. Go to my art. Which is the last one I should get ready? This is another one of my Fungisaurs characters. I try Shroom Ops. And you know what? This one I think doesn't need any slicing. I think that'll print awesome on a FDM machine with the right supports. Although I've got a pretty good line here for the head, so I could slice the head off pretty clean. And that would be easy. So let me show you that anyways, because this will be super simple. I'm gonna go ahead and merge this, merge visible, append it on. I'm gonna run a Dynamesh on this. See what 128 resolution does. A bit low. Let's crank that up to 600. Alright, it's 4.3 million. That's quite a bit excessive. Let's fill this in. Alright, so that is a pretty solid, clean sculpt that is pretty 3D printing friendly already. But say I want to remove this head, so I don't have to worry about tall supports and then just do the head separately. Let me show you a quick, easy way I'd go about doing some keying rather than a custom solution. All right, Doom PDO is saying, is there a blog or resource you could suggest on slicing and supports and I guess general 3D printing stuff? What I can point you to is something I do, which is I teach at mold3dacademy.com. So if you go to classes, and right now it's available under self-paced, there's 3D printing for ZBrush artists. And so I've got 8 weeks of lessons in here for $200, which I think is a pretty good deal because you'll learn everything I do for 3D printing. So you'll learn 8 weeks of 3D printing for characters, for fashion and wearables, jewelry, keying, slicing, cleanup, assembly, and printing for FDM and SLA printing. You can see some of my student work on there. And so I highly recommend just checking out the class, and that way you'll learn everything I know. I'll put that down here in the chat for you guys. I'm working on an updated class, but I've kind of been working on it for a while. And I know ZBrush just updated, and then they're planning another big update. So I'm kind of holding off to finish off the course until the new ZBrush comes out. So until then, that self-paced option is a really good deal. All right, so now that's down to 1.4 million polys. And let's just do a quick slice. Now, since this is not that custom, this should be pretty easy. I'm going to go to my keys brush that I've created. And I'm going to click on this different looking tapered square. This is the one I used earlier in the stream. And this is the one I'm going to use now. And the only difference between this one and the last one is that I've added a platform. So basically, this is kind of its own thing. So I'm going to split that off. Subtool, split, unmask points. And let's take a look at what's going on. So this is a key, but if you look at the bottom, it's already got some thickness. So it's got the bottom part already keyed out. This is perfect for using for booleans. So I'm going to move it in place. And let's think about it for a second. Do I want it vertically upwards or do I want it down? That's the decision. So I can have it face this way, or I can have it with the key going in. I think upwards makes sense. Makes more sense to me in any way. All right, I'm going to rotate this model over. I'm going to move it into place. Just try to line it up as close as I can with that line for now. I know it's a bit of a curve, but it'll be good to line it up as best as possible right now. And move it down a bit. Then I'll want it to be not so tall. So I'll just tap on there and just make that key a bit smaller. That should do the trick. You can also rotate it a bit. All right, and that is a pretty great start. Now what I want to do is duplicate it just so I have a backup. And I will inflate and dynamesh it. So I like to run an inflate on it just to give it a bit more thickness. So I'll go to deformation, inflate. Whoop. Make sure you got to click on it. And maybe inflate it by 5. Yeah, that should be good. And we'll go to geometry, dynamesh. See what this does. Yeah, that's pretty clean. Let's also hide half of it and see what it did. So there, you can see how it's got some thickness to it. All right, I think the inflate of 5 was probably too much, so I'm only going to inflate it maybe like 3. All right. Yeah, that's plenty. All right, so now we're gonna, now that this is dynameshed and we have more topology, we can kind of sculpt it a bit custom and use that Boolean subtraction method I was showing earlier. So I'm just gonna go with my move brush. I have a big move brush selected. Just kind of move this up and down until it lines up a bit better with my character's chin. Now that's a big key and it's kind of peeking out the edge, so I may want to scale it down a bit. Just kind of sculpt it in place. Still a bit tight along the edges, but that's okay. I'll epoxy them closed anyway, so it won't be that big a deal. I'll move it slightly just in case. The back of the head, need to scale that, move that down a bit. And I don't need any of this along the edge. So I'm gonna select lasso and just kind of hide all of that edge. Same thing here. Invert that selection. Yep, don't need any of that. That should be plenty. I'm going to go ahead and delete hidden, Dynamesh again, and that'll close that loop. And now I can use this as a Boolean cutter or subtractor for this mesh. And in theory, it should work. And one way to find out. This should help me separate the top of the head and the body, or the head and the body. So I can just set it to be a negative. I can group it as Dynamesh sub. This is the rest of my character, also already been Dynamesh. So I can now go to Booleans or render Booleans, turn that on, and I can see how this will kind of be separating my head and body. And right now I can also go in and kind of adjust it on the fly, how it's going to be cutting. You can move that up a bit, make that seam line a bit cleaner, and it almost feels like I'm sculpting something invisible right now, which is pretty fun. So this actually works a bit better because of the ledge back there. So I'm actually going to move the head down a bit. So move that seam down. Want to make sure that that's cutting all the way across, that I'm not missing any spots. And so far, it looks like it is. All right, so now if I click on Booleans under my, let's see here, subtool, I believe it's under subtool, Boolean, right there, make Boolean mesh. Now it should create a new subtool where the top and the bottom are separate pieces. All right, let's check. There's a new subtool that has been generated. Let's click on auto groups and see if it, yep, separates the top and the bottom. Perfect. I'm going to append that onto my existing group. There's the union mesh. And I'm just going to do a group split. Let's check them out. All right, so there's the bottom and the body. There's the top. I'm going to come in here and smooth it out a bit. But yeah, this is a really quick, easy way of doing a custom key as well. This with the Booleans. All right, perfect. So not too bad. We got to two Fungisaur characters finished in one stream. I'm going to save this. Let's go down to preformed opened up by mistake. Here we go. Back in Idea Maker, this character that I had sliced and set up for FDM printing is ready to go. At standard print resolution, going pretty detailed, is going to take 46 hours to print. So this is the one downside of 3D printing. It's pretty slow. It's estimated to use 386 grams of filament, which is a third of the liter of spool. So that's not bad at all. And the estimated price is $12. So for me, it's not that much. The plan is to try it out, see if it works, and then next week when you guys, or 2 weeks from now when I do my next stream, I'll show you guys the finished print, hopefully a bit painted up too. All right, so that one is good. Let's preview the splice. All right, here's the sliced up preview from Idea Maker. And if I run this slice, let's see what's happening. So you can see the internal components. So it's going to start with the just base scaffolding. Build it up, build it up. Looks like everything is well supported. This area might be giving me some trouble right here. Kind of just generates on top of itself. So I might want to increase the internal resolution. So yeah, I might increase the internal resolution, but that's basically it. It's going to slice again, and then I'll prepare for print. And you can see how it thinks about it with FDM. It actually shows you all the build lines that it's going to build. All right, but that is it for today's ZBrush 3D printing stream. Thanks to everyone who joined and for joining. Hope you enjoyed a little preview of my Fungisaurs for Monster Palooza, the large print I showed, or large milled out piece I showed, and the Dragon Scout. So yeah, that was it for today. Join me again in a couple of weeks, and then we'll do some more 3D printing ideas to reality. Thanks for joining all. All right. Till next time.